mortals, welcome mere mortalites to another episode of the Mere Mortals Musings. This is where myself, Kyron,
And Juan,
get together here in Brisbane, and on this date, it's the Sunday 3rd of November. We're recording this right after our monthly goals, and it will be released shortly afterwards. And a Musings episode is where we dive into a particular topic that I have chosen for this week, and we go into some of the... this one's going to be more predictions, so it's not going to be super like practical, effective philosophy as we like to do here on the Mere Mortals. So this one is the future of media. And
future of media.
I've just been thinking about this recently, getting back into podcasting 2.0. I heard a couple of things there, had some couple of thoughts, just in general. My mind was just on the future recently, a lot of it. And so I went, all right, this would be a cool topic. I've divided this into two parts. So the type of content and the type of structure. And so that was all the kind of briefing I gave to Juan.
Correct. And
I'll just put this at the start here. This is for predictions. I'm going to say like the next 1 to 5 years mostly, but time length can vary. If you want to have ones that are after that or anything, that's fine as well. But when I just speak, it's going to be generally what I predict for the next 1 to 5 years.
Okay. The way that I thought about it, just to set some context, was 20 years.
20 years.
20
okay.
years.
Interesting.
I guess it was putting in a
sweet.
position of when my daughter was going to be kind of older.
Everything's going to be covered then. Excellent. All right. So
Before we begin though, you got to define media. You have to define media because I've had the conversations now through the week about this
all right.
with
Well,
people.
I didn't do that.
Okay. So if you look it up with media, just quick Google, it actually says it's the main source of mass communication. So that, let's make sure we're super clear here. When I'm talking about media as well, I'm also talking about, I guess, just ability to communicate to others. I'm not suggesting it's purely a business commercial way that I'm talking media, although like large parts of that is. So for instance, TV, I would say that's media. Newspaper is media. Social media is media. Consumption of a textbook, media. I would say it's just various mediums for media to be transferred to one another. I guess I would articulate it that way. Text messages, I would say, is media. So that's my definition of media.
Sure.
In conversations with someone else, they didn't think that some of these were media. So I'm saying up front,
Interesting.
those are media, even though it's not all of them are the mass way of communication, which is the actual like definition of media. I think the media that we're talking about is just the broad, the context of everything that you might consider media. Let's just say that.
Yeah, that was pretty much mine. I've got some things where I said, I'm not going to particularly touch on books, movies, video games, educational resources, news, etc. Even though they're going to be slightly within the scope of what I'm talking about. Okay. But yeah, I suppose like just getting into it will be the easiest way of doing it. So I've got structure here first. So let me do a little spiel. Okay. So I think a lot of the structure of media is driven by technology. If it's, as you said, mass communication, the technology is the most important thing. Probably back in the day, the technology was you fucking forming your hands in a cup and just shouting. And then maybe someone invented like, holy shit, if I get this, piece of wood and carve it into a horn, this is like the new form of media. Yeah. Probably smoke signals. You can imagine this goes forward and forward, town bells, church bells. And then when we invented electricity, that changed a lot of things. And then you could do it long distance and et cetera, et cetera. So I've written down here, podcasting 1.0 is peaking. So I think we're coming to the peak of some sort of media, and in particular, I feel like there's a change coming. There's a brewing. So I define this as how many people in the industry define it. So a lot of people say, what's a podcast? And they're like, well, whatever people think a podcast is. So a YouTube channel can be a podcast, even though technically it isn't, but whatever. That's podcasting 1.0. So two people talking on YouTube is podcasts. Joe Rogan getting 3 hours out of a political candidate the week before the election. That's probably like the peak, right? It doesn't get more peak attention than that. So technology will change this, as we saw with radio, TV, computers, and phones. So everything has changed over like 70 years, for example. Mass communication of media is very different. So I've then broken it down into audio, video, and text as the three main structures of how I see things going to change. And I've got some predictions for each of those. So do you feel like there's going to be a change of brewing? So you're looking 20 years out. So I imagine you think there's going to be some big changes, or maybe not. Maybe you think it'll stay the same.
I think it's going to be a huge change, and it's looking at a different path than what you're looking at. So I think let's begin with your assessment of the 1 to 5 years across those audio, video, and text formats.
Okay,
and I'm talking structure here, not content.
Yeah.
Let's then we can talk about whether I agree or disagree with some of them, and then we can play into that, and then I'll play with you the idea. It's a more foundational thought process that I was having around it to see if you also agree with it.
Yep. So even though I've broken these to audio, video, and text, there is a blending of these going on, but I'll just divide them into these three for the moment, and maybe touch on the blending later.
Sure.
So on the audio side of things, I don't think much is going to change for 5 to 10 years, to be honest. RSS is still the granddaddy of audio consumption, and if you think of how people get pure audio, in terms of people speaking, it's definitely podcasting and things like that. Radio and music, there's still I've got a 50-50 bet on whether music and radio will come into the RSS world. So I think RSS is just a really good medium for pushing this stuff out. Makes sense in a whole lot of cases. So niche things like Twitter Spaces, using WhatsApp audio, I guess you could use that to communicate with a lot of people. I know there are, for example, I've heard of an author who started off as a fucking WhatsApp group. She wrote a full book on WhatsApp, and people were, joining this group and getting like her little snippets and reading a fucking book on their phone in a WhatsApp chat. And eventually it got published as a full book. She was using it as kind of like a test case or a study.
Yeah, I've seen people do that in Substack and a few other places as well. So I can imagine the usage of WhatsApp as well for that.
So that's text. Whether people are doing an audio version of that, I haven't heard of that. If anyone has, please let me know. That'd be pretty wild. But I don't think that's going to, or a Clubhouse type thing, as long as that lasted. I don't think any of that's going to overcome what is essentially podcasting 2.0, aka podcasting 0.0, which is the enclosure of an MP3 or AAC file without digital rights management, I believe, and is available to download. I think that's going to still be one of the main forms of audio for podcasting. Okay. And then whether value for value music comes along and people start putting music in RSS feeds, I see some trends of it happening. More and more artists, artists are putting their music up in RSS feeds. I know it's pretty popular on Nostr, certainly in the value for value world. There's probably like a solid 10 to 20 shows that do a kind of top hits or a compilation of like they call them value for value music shows. And they'll just like list them off, play them. And when people are getting money for just putting their music up on somewhere, I can see that trending of them telling their friends like, hey, if you put it up on here, it's way better than Spotify or things like that. So I could see that happening, but 50-50 bet on whether that'll change anything in the next 5 years.
Yeah, okay.
It's kind of like Adam says, it's as hard as podcasting was originally. We got in when it was easy. You already had the mics, podcasting host companies and stuff, but apparently it used to be just so hard for the first 10 years to have a conversation with a podcast, because you'd have to learn about mix minusing. There was no roadcasters, there was no mixers. It was painful
hard to get through it.
Extremely. And that's how sending boostagrams, uploading music and RSS and stuff is. So I think that has a chance, but we'll see.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't disagree. I think
the audio side of things, music's probably the big one out of this. Do you think the music industry would change in terms of delivering audio content or how people consume it in the next 5-ish years?
5-ish years, I don't necessarily think there'd be too much of a change consumption-wise.
I still do. I had that bet of, what was it? Spotify would be bankrupt within, when did I say? I can't remember.
I can't remember, but it's wrong. I can't remember, but it'll be wrong.
I think I said 2030.
Look, I think there's going to be my view from a media perspective, and I know you're being specific on podcasts and a few other things, but just I think next 1 to 5 years, not a lot changes, maybe congregation of a few things. Like you were talking earlier, the month ago, there's an opportunity for podcasting, the podcast 2.0 guys to go and create their own app. I think there's just going to be more continued conglomeration for the eyeballs where the money is to bring that all together. I don't necessarily think that a lot in the music space changes all that much in terms of its delivery. It's still probably the existing platforms that exist. I think some of the structure will change gently and then quickly, but I don't know if in the 1 to 5 years there's much more that changes from what you said.
Yeah, I mean, 5 years. Let's think. 5 years ago was 2019. Has much really changed since 2019 in terms of the way you consume things? It feels like things just got a bit faster or a bit more.
Sure.
The TikTok style content. There's more of that, but that structure was already there. Was there anything really breakout new that came along? I don't think so. I don't think anything has.
There's a lot more AI generated content now. That's one thing.
So but that's the content side of things, not the actual structure. True. So going into video, I still think YouTube will dominate the long form for the foreseeable future and be closed off. In terms of it's the one thing. Spotify won't break in. They're trying to do a lot of video stuff. I doubt it will happen. I very much doubt it, and I don't think video will make its way into RSS either.
That's one part I disagree, I guess, on my overall strategic view.
We can talk about that. Mobile apps will still dominate the short form video, and that'll just probably be everywhere. You'll see it in all the social media apps just in general. So I think short form video will just be on all of those places. TV is dying, if not already dead. I think it would require really new hardware to change how we consume video. And movies, that's one thing I was wrong about. I thought COVID would have wiped out the film industry, but they still seem to be going strong. Streaming's still probably the way to go in terms of how people consume most of it instead of watching live videos or something like that. That's getting more into the content. I think the only thing that will really change this is a VR or AI glasses so that you could watch a video whilst on a bus or just somewhere where having a phone wouldn't be appropriate. If we have screens everywhere, so this is one of the Kevin Kelly type things where he thinks everything's going to be a screen and we'll have some sort of sensors on it. So the windows will have screens on it. The floor will be a screen. Everything's going to be screenable and that you could interact with it, whether that's watching stuff on it or not. I don't know, but
kind of immaterially, we've got a headset that overlays augmented reality on something like that.
Yeah. And that would probably be the only thing that would really require it. But I think that's more than 5 years off. That's screening of everything is going to be. It's going to take a while for that. So, any thoughts on video?
I'd say I know Kevin Kelly. I think Kevin Kelly said that a long time ago, right, about the screening thing.
Let's see. So I read that in the book, The Inevitable. When was that published? That was, I'll say that. I think that was in the last 5 to 10 years. And he's got a whole bunch of videos on YouTube of the future of, and then it's the future of news/media, which I actually watched last night. The future of movies, the future of gaming, the future of health, the future of etc. And I'm pretty sure he still talks about screens in some of those things, and that everything will be a screen.
Well, I'll oppose his screen idea completely. I'd say that would be more of a wastage of energy and cost than it would be to just do really well in augmented reality with something like Oculus or Microsoft's Visual One or Apple's One. In fact, you can do it right now with Apple's One, like you talked about with everything becomes a screen, or Oculus or the Microsoft one. you can overlay a screen wherever you want without it being in the thing itself.
Now, this when he means screen as well, he also talks about it'll have data on it and be able to feed you stuff. So your dirty windows over here, for example, they're not too dirty, but if one of them got cracked, for example, it could send an alert saying like, hey, a bird just flew into me and the window's now cracked. And so it's like, oh, okay, I need to fix that. So you don't just come home and it's like, shit, I've got a broken window.
Right. Like I'd still say I feel like there'd be easier ways to do that than having every item be. So
take it up with Kevin Kelly, man.
I'll say Kevin Kelly. Disagree. I think there's easier ways to do that.
So what do you think about Spotify's video? What?
No, I'll let you do the text bit as well because mine's going to be an overarching one. That
sounds good.
Yep.
So I actually think this is the one with the biggest chance of being revolutionized in the next 1 to 5 years. I saw this video recently of a deaf girl, a mute girl, who had some glasses on, and just looked like normal glasses. And she presses a button on them, and nothing happens. And you're like, what kind of fucking stupid shit is this? Why am I watching this video? But then she turns it around and shows, and it actually it's just doing, what would I call it? Real time, probably using AI to interpret what people are saying, not lip reading. I'm guessing it's just actual sounds coming in. And so it's hearing what people are saying, automatically converting that to text, and it's appearing on her glasses. So someone who is now deaf can hear what someone's saying, and she doesn't even need to be looking at them. I think that's a no-brainer, going to be so useful. Fuck, it'd be great for my dad. He'd need that because he's got some hearing aids in, but he needs to be like facing towards you so he can kind of see your lips as well. We already see in so many of the stuff that people watch, there's just captions on everything. So people are used to it. It's not just old people or deaf people. Like
a lot of people are using
young
it.
people use it. Shit, my brother uses it all the time. So that's one thing that I think seems pretty simple. All the requirements are there in terms of like the AI / large language models being able to interpret audio to text instantly, pop it up on your glasses or whatever thing it is, I guess. And so this is where I think text it's that kind of blending of merging of things where text is going to appear in more places as like a supplementary tool. I don't think people will read more books. I'm not sure that's going to happen, but I think text will appear more in more places. Even useful for my brother's girlfriend. She her English is pretty good, but I'm sure there'd be times where she wished she could just see that word that a bogan pronounced or said, and wish that she'd just seen the text version of it because it's so much easier than hang on, mate.
Yeah. Like, what's going on?
Yeah. So that's one thing where I think blogs, books, ebooks, they'll probably all stay the same, but the actual real time generation of text, I think we'll see that in the next 1 to 5 years in some interesting places.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I wouldn't disagree. I think there'll be some interesting changes there.
Yep.
Okay.
That's all I got for structure.
Okay. So I'm going to try and...
One's going to lay it out for us people.
I'm going to try and structure this in the best way I can possible. And I think first we've got to begin with a lot of the structural changes will come via generational changes. And what I mean by that, generations that gone past, not our generation, older generations, the forms of media consumption on the structure perspective was, as we saw, news, TV, radio, and a lot of these is technology bounded, as technology has improved and changes, things speed up. Yeah, you're talking about it. So
there's still newspapers and magazines.
Exactly. But I think it'll be in large part tied to generations, as in once the generation that is older than us dies off,
good riddance.
Will there be really a usage of newspapers? I think it'll be decreased really rapidly because the percentage of people the percentage of people who will start using it'll shift as things have shifted to digital newspapers and all that sort of stuff. Fine.
Which it already mostly has.
So let's just go, okay, that was the form of structure of media in that generation. Our generation and maybe a younger generation has started to change now. Social media, digital newspapers, digital this, blah, 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 video, audio, all that sort of stuff. Now, I kind of was thinking about it. I was into something else and this kind of struck me. I was like, okay, let me try to do some maths and some numbers around this, right? And if you looked at newspapers, roughly, and then you go to social media or video Thursday, what's the difference between the two as a structure of media? And think about it at a fundamental level.
I mean, it's user generated, a lot of the... so it's more... Like, is it more true? I'm not sure of that. It's more real time.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's true. I guess the way that I was thinking about it is foundationally, it is, you don't have to call it an increase of quantity of the structure, but it is an increase of density.
Okay.
The density of the information, therein lies the structure. A newspaper, so the numbers, and again, this could be slightly off, so whatever, take it with a grain of salt. Roughly, I think I'll pull...
What do you mean by density?
Yeah. So what I mean by density is, roughly, a newspaper page would contain about 880,000 bits of information.
Okay.
110 kilobytes if you want to transform that into information, right? Now, that's just the structure of the information. So whether it's newspaper, whether it was TV at the time or something around the time, you had information. So the media, the structure, was providing to you X amount of bits of information. Now, how fast you read it converts into how much bits of information you're taking in per second. So stick with me here, folks. I'm trying to put this into some sort of structure. Because the next thing that I was trying to calculate, okay, let's just say an Instagram reel now. So we've got one generation to the next generation. So now we're talking about the structure of media right now. And roughly, calculation-wise, and again, I'm using ChatGPT to get me these numbers of doing the calculations for me. It was basically saying that comparing to a newspaper page, an Instagram reel or a TikTok video contains about 1,400 times more information than a newspaper, as in bits of information, right? So what that says to me is the amount of bits per second that you as a user are processing is 1,400 times more, right? So between newspaper to then, you've gone up 1,400 times in the amount of stuff that you're processing. And if you think about it, if you looked at a newspaper and then you say in the same quantity of time, looking at a TikTok video, I don't know if everyone's like this. I'm like this. If I was to look at the newspaper for 100 seconds, I'm probably going to grab or understand most of what's presented there. Maybe I've read most of it. If I look at a TikTok video and you look at it for 100 seconds, if you really think about it, you're only taking in a percentage of all of the information that's being presented to you as a media structure, right? Because maybe you didn't notice this in the background, or that color was this, or this pixel was that, or this was changing, and that's changing in all the various seconds of the video or frames that are going by. So fundamentally, I go, the change that's happened between that previous generation and technology obviously helping us out to our generation now is the amount of information, the amount of bits of the information presented, not even forget seconds, has gone up, right? And that's just gone up. Okay, so what my take overall, I'm talking everything, what my take would be is, will the structures of existing media change? No, a lot of them will be there kind of tied to the generations. So will books and stuff and e-Kindle books and newspapers still exist? Yeah, I'd say in the next 5 years, 10 years, even 20 years. But the percentage of people will move, not be using it as much. What I think will change, structure, is that we will go towards modes of media that increase the amount of bits that are coming through to be for consumption. That's the trend that I say. So what does that look like? What does that actually look like in practice? Virtual reality, augmented reality would increase the amount. Why? Because you're having more things. Increases to haptic abilities, increases to maybe smell. I guess one of the examples that someone was giving was, okay, let's just say the medium of information might be a video, like a reel or something like that comes through. However, you can also feel what it feels like through the screen, and you can also smell, and you can also feel maybe the heat or the coolness of something like that. Then you're increasing the amount of information that's coming. So the structure of the media is increasing, which still may be similar intensive interactions. But I kind of go, this is my crucial one. This is my crucial change, I think. In 20 years, I kind of feel like, and that's going to be a full generation newer, I almost go, I think the structure of the media will be set up in place where you will need two things. You will either need a paradigm shift.
Cocaine.
Well, no. I think, and this is what I was saying. So this is what I was thinking in my mind is we're now reaching a point as a human that you cannot actually process all the bits of information because there is a bits per second limitation to the processing of things, right? Cognitive loading,
Yeah, sure.
mindset. If you multiply that by 1,000 times based on technology, like just say, of information coming through, you can no longer, it would be the equivalent if you watched a reel of a 1,000-second video in 1 second. You will not take in all that information. You will just have no idea what's going on. But there will come a time when that much level of information might be able to be pushed through whatever media that looks like. So my view of structure is a little bit different in that no matter if I'm talking video, audio, text, a lot of those will exist. So they will persist until people just stop using it altogether. But the new structures of media that will come about will be so overloaded with information. Where my two views is, one, you either need the support of AI or something similar to interpret it or conglomerate it to your personalized view of structure, or B, we will have to integrate like some sort of level of computerization into a human to process the information as fast as you need to.
Yeah.
Because so you could reasonably think this. What if you could push so much media? What if you could watch a movie in a second? Right now, if I said to you, like, it kind of makes no sense to me. Like, what do you mean watch a movie in a second? But if you were able to process all of the amount of frames and that as a media with the support of something, I don't know what that something is, let's say embedded chips into your brain or some other way of connecting it that's so fast, then you might be able to process that much information in a second. And so then the medium doesn't necessarily change, but the structure of the media changes dramatically. That's my view. I'm kind of going on a limb, and I think the foundational process of the amount of bits coming through of information per second of something is increasing across all of media. That will continue. Things will persist, but that's when you said about the video on podcasts. If I look at it in that lens, I go, oh no, shit, yeah. I think everybody is going to be going like, if it's more information, throw it in there. So
I meant in RSS feeds.
And I'm saying I think the underlying push for give them more information rather than less information for newer generations will persist.
Yeah.
And I think that trend will continue on that path.
Yeah. I meant specifically in RSS. Like that's not going to happen, I don't think.
Gotcha.
One question for you. Have you ever asked ChatGPT or AI to condense a email that you've gotten to be shorter?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you ever asked it to make something that you were typing longer?
Yes.
Okay. So there's this thing where you're intentionally making it more
verbose.
dense, more verbose, saying it often probably someone on the other side is then filtering it down again. So this is definitely already happening. Whether that's useful or not, I think is up for debate.
This is the other caveat, because we're talking structure of media, and there was, I guess, there's a differentiation between, and why I think some other forms will persist, is that there is a difference between consumption and understanding. Just because you can listen to a movie, so you could watch a movie for 3 hours, you could get ChatGPT to give you a summary of the movie in 2 minutes, let's just say, or you could get something to create an AI video of what the movie would have been like in 2 minutes and give you the full story. But you are missing a level of understanding. But I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think that's because we are human.
Yeah.
There's a level. We are only saying this because as a human, you have a limitation to how much you can like embed and understand. If you didn't have that challenge, then you'd absolutely go flying through in bits per second, because you can just consume so much and conceptualize it all and throw away your memory into some fucking hard drive that stores it all. Off you go.
Yeah, there's when you first said dense, it didn't confuse me, but it was what went through my mind is, okay, the density of a newspaper, or let's just take a book, is less in terms of bits, but it could be more in terms of the arranging or structure
bits,
of it,
like usefulness of it,
the quality of it, if you want to put it that way. So that was where I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I agree with you. I definitely think there'll be just more density in the terms of actual bits flying at you in the media of the future? Will there be densely written books and dense in the terms of people spending hours and hours and hours to write a single sentence? I feel like that will decrease slightly, but that it'll still be valuable. There'll still be plenty of people who are looking for that. And I do think that we'll attempt this AI interpretation bullshit of make it more dense, make this TikTok video more dense. For example, my brother was showing me this thing where it was, I can't remember what it was related to, some information about something. And it was just a woman talking, and she was actually having like things showing up on her screen. And it was actually I felt it was visually engaging. Yet she also had on the other half of the screen those ones where it's just a Minecraft player jumping on blocks and Minecraft happening. You've seen that? So this happens all the time. And I kind of understand it. If you're just hearing audio and you actually want some other just random shit going on and to engage people, you put a Minecraft video or a speed racing or some sort of video game and it captures people, holds them there longer. It's like, okay, I understand that. But she had that on an already visually engaging thing. And so I'm like, what's the point of that? It was already visually engaging enough, which just goes to what you're saying. Like she probably just went, more, extra. So I think there will be this kind of AI or whatever, make it more dense, AI interpret it back down to my level. And I think we'll get sick of that after a while, which would then go into the new forms of media. And I definitely agree that the plugging stuff into your brain, whether it's a external memory so that you can capture more of it. And so I've seen Fight Club a bunch of times. I remember watching that movie. That's somehow just like a structure in my brain somewhere, a memory now. Sure, I could just have that floating over here and SSD, plug it in, bloop, and then I've watched 1,500 other movies all just hanging out over here. That might be valuable because I'm not going to watch all of those. Like I couldn't be fucking arsed watching all of those. But there will still be like that human experience of wanting to enjoy it in the moment, in the present. So that makes me think, okay, these things will still exist even though they're not the most dense. They'll still be, people will still be producing and creating these things, which I guess is getting slightly onto the content side of it.
Yeah, no, that was my thought on the structure.
Nice.
So 20 years time.
So the new media will also be able to incorporate other senses that we don't use.
Yeah.
When I watch media, I'm not smelling anything. When I'm watching media or listening to something, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, and look, how can it look like practically? Because sometimes we've got to talk practically. The Meta Ray-Ban connection where you've got there's the glasses from Ray-Ban
Vaguely aware of
with
it.
Meta, where it's got a camera on the front here so it can record basically what you're doing. I've seen people using and posting it, so you can post things with it. It has playback of.
You've seen them in real life?
Yep, in real life, and I've seen like people surfing with them and stuff like here in Australia.
Sure.
And they'll post things on the Instagram through it with that sort of method. It's really, really easy, and the way you record and take photos and stuff. I could see that going like phenomenal steps forward where maybe you, like you said, you're wearing it, you're doing the text translation, you're doing the like look at something and it tells you whatever, anything that you want to know about it, but it maybe introduces, it has an ability to create odors, it has an ability to like tap you, you can have these haptic suits already exist, but is there a way that you can have a thinner haptic suit? Easily one is, and this is where parts of it came from, Neuralink, right? They've already got 3 people with Neuralink chips as of August of 2024. Musk is saying roughly in the next 5-10 years, they'd expect about 100,000 people to have something like these chips. Then you don't need haptic feeds. You don't need fucking anything else. You just got that can control any of those emotions. Now, that's 10 years. And let's be real, I reckon people with money are going to spend shit like that because if it helps both become like basically super powerful, it's going to, like, I think it's going to create a gigantic divide between the people who are using maybe new structures of media and people who are not as well in the consumption of information and stuff like that. So,
well, let's also be real. When did Musk say there'd be 100,000? How many years?
10 years.
Okay. All right. That's probably Musk is notorious for predictions that take much longer than
That is
actually.
true. That is true. Sorry, 20 years? Maybe you're right. Boostagrams, is there any Boostagrams?
I think there was one or two
to call out?
Yeah. So for those who don't know, a Boostagram is where you can help support the show in the financial sense. We'll talk more about how you can support in other ways towards the end. But this is our favorite method of doing this. And so if you go to meremortalspodcast.com/support, we talk about why we do it. If you go onto an app like Fountain, so this is for the audio side of things, Fountain, TrueFans, Podcast Guru, Podverse, Curocaster, you can send us some money directly in there, and people usually attach a message at the same time as well. So
yeah, we do have two that come through. This first one's actually funny because it's from Petar, the Slav. It says, just boosting in to say that Trevor Noah is the unfunniest comedian I've ever seen. Just the worst. Now, it's 2,222 sats using Fountain. So we're ducks. I mean, I'd have to agree because I didn't even know he was a comedian.
Oh, really?
I thought he was just like...
You didn't know that?
No. Maybe I would. I did not. I didn't think about him as a comedian. He did. He
looks different, right? Because I vaguely looked at that video just to make sure what you were talking about. I think he has a different haircut normally. What was he
the lead for? I forget.
Daily Show.
Daily Show, right? I've never seen the Daily Show. Even though they talked about it, I guess I didn't put one and two together to be like, oh yeah, he's a comedian. So yeah, he's not funny at all.
Yeah,
it's not in all of the interviews that
I've
seen.
Was he trying to be funny?
No, in all of the interviews that I've seen him on, he didn't try to be funny. He was very solemn and emotional and deep. So I wouldn't, honestly, if that had not popped up, I would never have thought of him as a comedian. So yeah, he's probably a really unfunny comedian.
I know next to nothing about him.
Yep.
I'm not into those styles of shows.
No. So thank you very much there, Peter. And then Cole McCormick, 2 points. He says, 1, Joseph Spencer is interesting because of the biological information he shares that is connected to your life experience. There's an old phrase I grew up with that is connected to this. Be aware of your thoughts, they become words. Be aware of your words, they become actions. Be aware of your actions, they become habit. You train your biology when you think a certain way all the time.
Yeah.
Point. And the second point, second in there, it's very interesting that every medicinal study takes into account the placebo effect. I tend to think that means the mind is more powerful than people give it credit. There's untapped power in everyone. And that was 1,111 sat using Fountain.
I'd also agree with that. The funny thing though is if Cole and I really dive down into what we'd believe, we'd have some really radical differences.
Yeah,
for sure. I just from knowing him and meeting him, I'd be like, Cole, you're out of your fucking mind if you believe that. But I don't disagree with what he wrote there as well, which is interesting.
No, I don't disagree with a lot of those. Like I don't disagree with anything that Cole normally says, but some of the maybe specifics or applicability maybe would be slightly different. But Cole's
got he's got a bit of a conspiracy streak in him as well. I remember he was what was he? He was talking on one of his episodes about how Joe Biden was a clone, and all these rich people are actually clones, and they send him out to do like all the
work that they need.
Well, the actual, what was it? The actual, I can't remember the actual person was like trapped in a house somewhere, and they'd sent the clone out to do the
bidding.
The
bidding of its masters.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, they've got it wrong. The clone should be at home doing the fucking chores.
Yeah.
And then like, I'm out there kissing babies.
Yeah, you're biting babies on Biden's fucking example. You see that? You see that? He was biting a baby's foot. He was like, arr, arr.
Recently?
Yeah, recently. It was a couple of days ago. So go check that out, man.
No, that's the kind of politics I want.
That's what I'm into. If you're biting baby's feet, I'm voting for you, motherfucker. Cole, you looked very good in your latest Halloween costume. It looks very nice.
Okay, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it was very good.
He's doing a podcast normie thing as well, which is related to all about pod home. So if you're interested in doing podcasting, how to do it live, things like that.
Kyron's been on the podcast as well. That was the conversation, came out 4 days ago.
Yeah.
So go have a listen.
Brazil.
Correct. All right, let's get back to media. Content
this time.
Okay.
All right. Do you want to kick this one off? What kind of content are you expecting in the future?
Well, I think content, so similarly mapped back to my structure, I think the content is going to be, once again, same, generationally more dependent, like connected, and it'll just be a reliance on more information being shared. So it would be smells and touch and other forms of extra information that would come to the user. I think that it will become more and more polarizing, the content that is presented. So I I don't believe that we're going to go down the path. I think it's going to be algorithmically driven, which will mean it'll be driven to the more general things that create more eyeballs, as opposed to the less eyeballs.
So it's not necessarily that people believe these things. So it's not that people are getting crazier or wilder. They're just doing it because it works.
Foundation of people will want to create more media, no longer so for the sake or the joy of the information that they want to share, but more so about what will get more people viewing it.
Money.
Right. Yeah. Or what? Yeah. I think just eyeballs on your product, whatever that means. Yep. Optimize for that as opposed to optimizing for whatever. I guess a case in point of this is books. You read a lot of really old books, and by that is between, let's just say, 20 to 100 years plus. Classic books, things that are regularly recognized as some of the greatest books of our time.
Generally, yeah.
A lot of those books largely weren't created for the media, like the masses at the time to really love it. Maybe some were, but some weren't. Yeah. Some weren't even loved when they were actually done.
Meditations wasn't even meant to be a book.
All of those sorts of things. Now, so I think that will slowly go away. I think that will very much start to dissipate. Part of that makes me go, I don't know if I'm going to read that many new books anymore. Some of them, sure, will have context of someone's created it because they've really wanted to. But I would probably challenge something like Andrew Huberman's latest book, which is going to come out next year. I probably will read it, but it's called not Principles. He's calling it Protocols.
It's got to be called Protocols.
Now, does he really want to get that Protocols book out to the world really deeply as like that? If he was back in the 40 years ago, he'd really want to. I'd challenge Andrew and probably say that you wouldn't.
Yeah, well, it's more that Williamson's going to make a book as well.
I think it's more largely that is what people want. It's what people want, and I think that's a differentiator. So content-wise, it'll become much more, what does the consumer want, not what do you want to put out into the world.
Sure, yeah.
And that will change content dramatically because it will no longer be content that you might go and pursue because someone's shared it and it's a story or a particular thing that's really quite interesting. It'll mean that the content on the fringes will go even more fringier, and everything that just gets the eyeballs will go even more hectic. So I can imagine the Mr. Beast and a few other like that. Multiply that by a few, you've got just a congregation of media all aggregating towards that particular way. That's how your content is, like the content will look. It will also, I think, move towards content display where it's multiple information meanings in a more combined way. What do I mean by that? Memes. Memes are a way to pass through information and concepts and maybe backgrounds in a really concise way. Because when you see a random meme and it's just got one word, if you looked at it as just like a general consumer, you've never seen this before, you'd be like, what the fuck does that mean? But if you've got the context, it's like a whole story into one, and you get the funniness. I think media will also trend towards that, which also congregates with the most seen, the most understood, the most connected to, kind of everyone's starting to see more similar content. I have a feeling that's where it's going to slide towards.
Yeah. I think the reasons for those two things were as people's jobs start to transform, i.e. become less of them. The robots take over everything. The robots. I think more and more people are going to be driven towards creating content as they're living. So that kind of touches that first point of why they might be creating stuff they don't necessarily believe in. It's just like, this is what works.
That's what I'm going to do.
Let's fucking do it. Although there is still like a large portion of people who are creating really niche stuff because they're obsessed with it. I don't disagree that it will go away. It'll just become even more fringy. And actually, that's actually a point that I forgot to mention. The thing is, whether we like it or not, whether you like it or not, you're either going to be doing fringy, your own customized sort of media that you release. And let me tell you, a lot of our stuff in the Meme Mortals will be like that. I think we can be successful because of that. But fuck, man, there's going to be so much that's going to be taken over by AI in AI content created, or AI, or just like it's just you and me having conversations, and then it's AI clipping and creating the subsets. And what happens there is that all the AIs are going to be algorithmically looking to get more attention, and so the things that get posted in clips
or in like the more shorter form content will be all the same because it'll be what gets the most views. And so it won't go and be like, oh yeah, they're talking about the war of 1902 and that seems interesting to me. No, it won't, because the interesting thing is what everyone wants to talk about. Maybe COVID, maybe politics. And it'll pull that as the, oh yeah, you talked about this, that's interesting, I'm going to post it. So there's an incentive to be like the norm as opposed to just do your own thing.
Yeah. There's this channel I've gotten into recently, probably the last 6 months. It's called New World Review, and it's an Aussie guy, and I'm actually not sure where he's in Australia, but it's just obvious from his accent that he's Australian. And it's basically like not fan fiction. It's like theories or explainers of the manga Hunter x Hunter, which is this notorious manga for it's been going for like fucking 15, 20 years, and the author will like drop 10, 15 new things, and then he'll go away for like 3 years. And this guy has been consistently making videos, and every one of the comments is like, he is keeping this alive. Like, how is he still continuing to make videos? Nothing has been published for fucking 3 years. And there's recently been like a couple of chapters coming out. I think the first one's in 3 years, and everyone's just like losing their shit, being like, he finally has something. And he makes really good stuff. I find it fascinating that there's, he could be in Brisbane. It could be just like random dude around, and his videos are popular enough that it'd be a full-time income from that, I'm pretty sure. So it's just like the new world is here. The fucking the craziness is that you could just have a like random YouTuber. I know multiple YouTubers in Brisbane know of multiple people in Brisbane, and I'm certain that in Total Fusion there are influencers there who are making I met one, Melissa. She's got hundreds of thousands of people on Snapchat, and she just does workout videos. She makes a living from it. I'm pretty sure. So yeah, and then also in terms of the books, I think you're right. The only book I would read of a recent author would be one who I already follow and would want to know more about their particular backstory.
Exactly.
Yeah, that type of content, I don't disagree with either of those.
But as I mentioned earlier, I think it's just going to be a generational divide. That's going to become like a more apparent generational shift in amongst things, because I can tell you right now, my daughter growing up, I'm sure as she grows up in the society that she does, will be tilted towards more density, more things that are popular. It would be like, it's going to be a pretty ridiculous challenge to get her to want to read some of the more like meditations. I just say, what might be the benefit of reading meditations if she can rightly tell me, oh yeah, but I can watch the video that says what all meditations is in 1 minute.
Yeah.
How do you kind of go back against that? And if that content is, I can smell what Marcus's hair smelled like, well, fuck, I can't smell it in the book. So yeah, I'm at a loss here.
I've been missing out on so much. All right, my predictions. I think there's going to be more live, and in the sense of whatever percentage that people consume media now, how much of it is live media? I don't know what that number would be. 1%. You reckon? Maybe not even that. For every 100 videos that you see, how many of them are live?
Less.
Yeah. Let's just say 1%. I think that could creep up to maybe 5%, something like that.
I disagree with that.
I'll give you my reasoning for this.
Yep.
I've recently been watching what Gary Vee is doing on Whatnot. So Whatnot's a live shopping platform, and basically he goes on there, or other people who work for him, and they're selling merchandise on of their VFriends characters, of cards, plush toys, pins, all sorts of stuff, all related to their brand. Live shopping's huge, but just not in the West. In the East,
huge,
it's massive. There's one of my favorite videos I still came across a couple of years ago was the woman. Yeah, it's just this woman who's just like, she gets a coat hanger, holds it up quickly, puts it in the box, throws it away. Another box appears magically out of somewhere. She picks it up, and it's just, I have no idea what the fuck is going on, but she's selling stuff. Like, that's what's happening.
Have you seen the behind the scenes shot as well? To
no.
show how many phones are connected?
Yes, I have seen that. Yeah. Wild. Yeah. So it's, for those who don't know, imagine like, the reporters sticking all the microphones into, you know, really famous person's face. It's like that, but it's just like a wall of phones. I think Gary Vee's one of those people who's like a canary in the coal mine, sort of much like Adam Curry is. Adam's like the deepest canary in the fucking deepest coal mine because he's always way too early for this shit. But Gary Vee's a bit more close to the surface, so he's like 100 meters down.
I'm gonna bet against Gary as well here.
Okay.
I think something else will take over first.
Okay, all right. Anyway, I think that will be more popular. So not just live shopping, but I think it's it'll be more popular in this weird transition period of a lot more AI generated content coming out and people wanting, like, fighting back against it for a little bit. I think they'll eventually just not even care. But I think there will be a bit of a fight back, and that's where live will be important because it's very hard to create, I imagine, for the AIs for multiple years still to create really good live stuff.
No, good point.
That's engaging and obviously not fake. So I think a couple of combinations, and there is like the podcasting 2.0, and Adam Curry talks about this tons, which is like just in terms of live, getting people being able to hear their name read out or interact directly with the host as it's happening. There is something about that which is really fun, and I've experienced that myself. So I think that percentage will go up, so therefore there'll be more people doing live stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Let's fight back.
I agree. I do agree with all of that. I think that live will go a little bit bigger. I think that the push towards a more customizable interaction with content will increase, so that you see this on all platforms. YouTube, super fan, so you can interact more directly.
On TikTok with the NPC characters, being able to
people going on tour,
getting someone to do something. Live music is still very
people
popular.
going on tour and then being able to catch people, in person. All those sort of things.
You're going to see
I'm going to see Chris Williams on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So there's all these things where, yes, I do see that trend, but I think that will be 1 to 5 years.
Like a temporary.
I see a temporary. What do I see in 20 years? Because again, I'm talking 20 years as well on content. That's gone. And I actually don't know, maybe you can try to help me out. What would that actually look like for any creators, let's just say, of any information moving forward? Because I very much think what will happen in 20 years is you will be able to go, oh, I want to hear a conversation of the mere mortals. I want them to be talking about politics. I want them to be talking about this particular thing. I want Karen to be wearing this, Juan to be wearing that. I want them to be doing this. I want it to be about half an hour in length. Yeah. Boom, created, go and consume
everything is live. Yeah.
So, no, everything's on demand, not live. So there is what then happens to the creators when there's enough information of you as a human in the digital space where, and this is the terminology I was going to use, when your digital life? No. Your
identity.
Your digital, no, it wasn't digital identity. Your digital, let's go there. Your digital avatar. When your digital avatar is strong enough that anybody can create anything from it, I believe that, so 2 parts. One, I think that the monetization model will change so that it's the avatar that will get monetized to be used for things. So what would that look like? I'm throwing it out there. If this idea is true, then I think a kick-ass app or application will be to pay people who bring in that digital avatars with all of that information, pay them money per whatever usage of their avatar to create content. And then they get paid whatever people pay for this particular application, they get the benefit of it. And then you as a creator get paid in that way. Now, will they use value for value or some other else? Maybe. Like that's where I start seeing it more on that front. But if you can, I see it in 20 years, if you're creating everything on demand, what is the purpose of the creator creating things as opposed to just giving them enough avatar? Will that mean that, moving forward, that, it's even harder to get in because it's established individuals? Do you then have to go through a manual process of creation until people care about you enough to then create your content? So I don't know. I think that'll become, again, so what I see with movies, I truly believes, I would go in 20, maybe longer, it's fucked. It's gone. There will be no need for any movie studio at all because you could go and say, I want you to create a movie about, I want fucking Lord of the Rings. I want you to give me 3 more trilogies. Here you go. Go watch them for your life.
Yeah, just in terms of that, I agree in the sense that there won't be movie studios. I also don't think people will be creative enough to say, this is what I want and get it. I think that there's still going to be a need for kind of like tastemakers in a sense like artistic people who are better.
Yep.
It could definitely just be, instead of me creating content to directly go to Petar or Cole or something like that, I'm creating it just to feed my avatar so that the avatar levels up, improves, and then they are able to use my avatar in a better way, or my avatar is more engaging or fun or whatever. I can definitely see that abstraction of, instead of it being like really peer-to-peer, it goes through that medium digital point, which allows a lot of on-demand stuff.
Yeah, or let's just go a blend of AI and reality. Yeah, a bit more live, maybe a bit more of the content that we create, but then perhaps, let's just say in the conversation that we're doing right now, someone could just be listening, watching, whatever, and go, do they talk about this? If so, go and take me straight to that. Boom, boom, clip creator, here you go, consume it, off you go. Kind of like at the moment in the Valley for Valley space where someone else could go and clip a part of our show if they find it interesting. They themselves gain money from it. It's kind of like that, but a more automated process for an individual, right? A customized way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see many ways that will become a thing.
Yeah, I like what you talk about the avatars. So I had, what content is the future? Content is AI generated. So I'm already starting to see this with YouTube videos. I haven't been searching this. I've been looking up something else. Every now and then I just get into cave diving ones, which I hate because I love it, but I hate it. And it's cave diving deaths in particular, which has just got to be it's gone above as drowning as the worst for me, is dying in a cave or a cave system where you're trapped in there. That's just the worst now. A lot of it because it is like drowning in a constricted space. What the fuck? People are nuts. But I clicked on like an associated video or link to one, and as I'm watching, I'm like, I think everything in this is AI. The voice was almost certainly. It was stock footage of just random stuff, and even the description, I'm like, yeah, that looks like it's just gone through a Venice or AI or whatever. And I'm like, okay, this whole fucking thing is, even probably the music in the background was just chucked up into a thing. So it's already starting to happen, and it was only because I was really observing it going, oh, okay, yeah, I could see this, because it was close enough to other content I've watched where you could get away with it and not realize, you could just watch it and not realize, oh, everything in this was completely had that abstraction of it going through another thing from a person. A person was obviously still directing it. Truth Terminal, if you haven't heard of that, it's a Twitter account where a guy basically just jailbroke a LLM and fed it like history of memes, philosophy and stuff, and a lot of people find that really compelling. There's a lot of it was just interesting recently because a meme coin got very famous from it, blew up to 400 million or something crazy. I don't think it's really going to matter to people if it's AI or not in 10 years, but yeah, in the next 1 to 5 years, people will be like, oh, fuck it, I hate this AI shit, and fight against that. So yeah, as we get more free time as well, there will probably be even more media consumption, so you'll need more AI creating stuff.
Yeah.
Or avatar.
Yeah,
I like that avatar thing.
Let me go way into the future. 70 years, because maybe we're still alive. I genuinely think, now looking at what's happening.
Maybe. Come on, man. You're going for 126 minimum, weren't you? So
true. I'll be youthful still. At that point, I do foresee that we would have reached some level of integration with computers.
Yeah.
And some level of increased processing speed, of which any content that we imagine, any media, would be of such high velocity that either we, like as a human, you interact day to day with everything, but you just, everything and everywhere is consumed all at once. And so you're becoming almost like, not omniscient, but omnipresent in a way, because you understand like everything that's going on. But I foresee a distinction of almost humanity at that point, of the ones who have and ones who don't. Because, and one of the things I was talking about with media is this all depends on government regulations. So some of the stuff that we're talking about, what if it doesn't pass regulations in Australia? For instance, I think there's a certain limitation to now up to 16-year-olds on Instagram or like Meta products in Australia.
Okay.
Now, if that's the case in Australia, but not in Europe, let's just say, and they can engage and connect in this way from 10 to 16, and I'm talking in 20 years' time or more, then there's going to be a huge disproportional difference between the way you interact there between these two individuals. Go even further, and for those who have and for those who don't, that's a gigantic divide. You're not closing in on it, but it's starting to go towards like a full species differentiation of a human and a cyber human, realistically. And I think media, or just like, because it's tied with technology so much, and my underlying principle is I just think the bits per second is going to go up as opposed to stabilizing or going down. That something's got to change as a human to interact it, because you will hit the limit where you cannot process anymore. So how are you going to do it? Well, you either one, simplify it, or two, upgrade yourself to go on that path.
Yeah. Well, for me, all bets are off once we're starting to interface directly with the brain. I have no idea what the fuck is going to happen.
Yeah, man.
Start doing that. It's going to be wild shit.
Weirdly enough, the last couple of weeks, maybe months now, I'd see the abbreviation BCI, brain chip interface.
Okay.
All over the place. Really? I'm like, okay, man, this is not just no longer like, we're going to do it. People already exist with it, right? There's people talking about it, but I see the abbreviation of it all the time. And I'm like, if they're already using this abbreviated term as if it's like common knowledge, damn, what's going on? Like, is this like pretty common understanding? Maybe younger generation like, hey, we talk about BCRs all the time. I'll be like, what?
I don't know. People love creating. Do you know what KOL is?
KOL? No.
Key opinion leader.
Opinion leader.
That's been popping up for me recently.
Key opinion leader.
All right. Last couple here. This one you'll almost certainly disagree with. So the future of media is small. So I'm stealing this from Adam Curry, who would his belief is that we're going to see more and more local niche shows pop up, and you're going to have less Joe Rogans in the world, and less mega things. So it's kind of like the long tail theory, which is funny because like we're already long tailing it with the amount. There's fucking 4 million podcasts out there. 400,000, 300,000 of them are active. So it's already pretty long tailing, but he reckons it's going to get like even long tailer. And so you'll have more kind of like harkening back to the old local radio station. You're going to have more of those types of ones pops up. I don't know. Do you disagree with that? What do you think?
Not in the short term. I think it will until it's a paradigm shift. It's not even like, how will that jump? It's not going to jump to a different. It's just going to be something else completely different. It's going to transform it. Again, people will do that, but it'll be a minority as opposed to the majority. Yeah.
Okay. So, it was interesting him talking about this. I'm not doing it service because he's got a whole spiel on it. I was thinking though, starting up a Brisbane 2032 Olympics channel might be it's like small but not so small at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like,
I you know what it was interesting enough, just on a side quest, but we're talking about fitness and stuff, and it'd be fun to do a podcast or just a section of our Be More's podcast part of that. One of the ideas that I had, I don't know how I would actually apply this, but it would be about the 2032 Olympics, and it would be interviewing people who are attempting to go to the 2032 Olympics here in Australia.
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool, because honestly, some of them like 8 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old, would be kind of fun to see if they ever get there. And then, you'd be like, oh shit, I knew fucking whatever before they went all the way through. That'd be kind of cool. I don't know how the heck I would try to do that.
Sort
However,
that out, jeez.
but it would be interesting. So if you want to steal that idea, feel free to do so. Otherwise, I'll probably get to it in 2028.
Yeah, that's what I was sort of thinking. I'm like, this will be in the back burner for a while.
Yep.
All right, this one I've got a couple more things here. So, the future of media is blurred advertising. So this might be more hope than actual prediction. Surely we've got to get to the point where we realize the messed up incentives that current advertising has for everything. Like, surely we just get to a point where it's like, this is fucked, man. We can't, keep going with the ad model, realizing our data is valuable. And just wait. And do we deserve to be paid instead of extracted from? I don't think as a whole we're going to demand privacy and or payment for our data. So I don't think that's going to happen. But surely the interruptive ads have to stop, where it's an ad that is completely disassociated from the actual content. New World Review, like that guy I was talking about who does the manga stuff or the anime, I like him. But he has a fucking interruptive ad, like almost guaranteed, 2 minutes in that lasts until 3:30 or 4. Like, it's almost guaranteed with every video. I have to skip it. Like, I'm not gonna tolerate it.
Sure.
I think so. If we look at, like, influencers have already stole those ad dollars from a lot of where it used to be in the newspapers, in traditional TV advertising and things like that. So, like, there's influencers out there now who are getting paid to promote stuff. And I think they're only maybe like 80% interruptive of the content. So that it's still interruptive. Like, if you go on an influencer's account, you can see like, oh, okay, this is an ad, essentially. They're getting paid to put this. But I don't feel it's as, how would I say, like, aggressive, annoying,
as like
shit
an injected ad,
as a TV ad or as a ad on a YouTube channel or something like that. So I'm really hoping, like, fingers crossed, that it just becomes, I'm okay with it becoming more subtle, where it's like 50%. You're watching it and you're like, yeah, they probably got paid to do this, but maybe they just really enjoy this thing. Who knows?
Yeah,
I'm hoping. I'm hoping the future of media is non-interruptive.
I think it'll just
but I don't know.
I think it'll just be pay for the privilege of that. That'll be as simple as that. It'll be just like all models exist on like that now.
Which is okay. Like, I pay for YouTube Premium. We pay for YouTube Premium.
Correct.
And I'm okay with that. All right. People are coming home, so we've got to wrap this up shortly. Last thing. Will there be a standout thing that comes to dominate the decade or even the century related to media? So perhaps, but I have a good explanation of why I might miss it. So, like, what was the dominant thing of the 2010s was probably like the rise of apps in general. And, social media was a pretty big portion of that. That was where the biggest, Meta, what are some of the other big ones? Meta, Google, all that sort of shit.
TikTok.
A lot of that.
Snapchat.
The biggest companies came from that, so they accrued the most value. Arguably, the mobile was the game changer for the past 20 years, but I missed it because I don't really use it much. Like, I've still got this shitty phone from you, with no battery, that causes me problems, and I still just, like, tolerate it. I didn't use social media for most of the 2010s. A general in the army might be freaking out about how, like, drones have changed everything. Warfare is completely different, and the rest of the world's just like, like, this isn't that important. So I think what could be a game changer for me is probably not a game changer for the rest of society.
Correct.
So I don't know. Do you think there's a big trend of the 2030s, for example, related to media, or even the rest of the 2025s? Where we'll look back on and go, like, that was the biggest thing. We touched a whole bunch of them, so it could be any of the ones that we talked about, and we just didn't give it enough importance.
In the really, really short term, conglomeration of information. I think that's going to be the big key changer. Like, the ability, I don't know if this exists or not, but if you go right now to any Meta, YouTube, whatever, lots of content, lots of information, you definitely can't keep up with everything that's coming, right? I can't keep up with all the things that I can't. No, nobody can. I think the immediacy is going to be probably either an app or the functionality to conglomerate all of the day's things that have happened that you really are interested in, broken down, maybe even actively created to just you, like your own review for a half hour or something like that.
Yeah.
That I think is going to be the big thing that will pop up. That's as a prediction. But across the 2030s, I think it's going to be the introduction of more high density, like the beginning of higher density information, where we're going to start to see the shift between the ones keeping up and the ones that are choosing not to, and what that starts diverting in the creation of things.
Yep. For me, I don't have one. I'm not going to even try and predict, but the underlying thing that we didn't necessarily say in all of this. So as of this current moment, there is 720,000 hours of video are uploaded to YouTube every day. Obviously, we're not getting through all of that, not even making a dent in that. In 5 years' time, it's going to be much, much more than that.
Right.
Assuming YouTube's still around, but the media content that is being produced is going to be a ridiculous order of magnitudes more than what is currently produced. So didn't state that explicitly, but 100% that's good.
And if you start thinking about it from a user created for content, and it's still under the banner of YouTube, if you said 722,000 hours, what if it's every single person who watches videos does 2 hours per day? Fucking, blows up. Ridiculously so.
We're also going to consume more as well. So whatever the average of hours per day that someone consumes, probably double it. Yeah, I'd predict that.
It's going to get pretty crazy. All right.
Crazy world out there.
What do you think, Me Immortalites? Do you think any of what we're saying is going to materialize? I gave you some foundational thoughts as to where it might be going. If you steal one of my ideas and you put it to practice and it makes money, I'm officially a co-founder of that idea.
Chuck one in for a 5%
this is going
split.
into the legal battle of what's going to go in there. So put me in for a split. If you've got any interest in that, drop any comments.
Definitely give us your predictions for the future of media. We want to hear those, whether it's in boost form or reaching out to us in a comment on this video, or even just to our social media. That'd be appreciated.
Correct.
Sharing the episode with someone who you think would love it as well would be very much appreciated. That's it.
That's it.
Future.
Immortalites, thank you very much. Take care. Be well. Bye now.
Going out.